I don't think the BJP or the government has done that. And to level this kind of an allegation seems to be very absurd and weird. For the simple reason that truths have been stated not by the BJP or the BJP government. They have been stated by a court which is an equivalence of a high court in India on the 7th of April. They have mentioned all the they have mentioned the letter. They have mentioned the scribbles of Christian Michel and all things. So it's the evidence which has been pronounced by the court. And Pinaki, for your information, what you read out was not the order of the High Court, that was the order of the lower court. Because the High Court maintained that there was bribe given. The lower court maintained that there was no international bribery. So they had convicted them.
How has the High Court dealt with that document, Sudhanshu? How has the High Court dealt with that document?
Allow me, can I finish? Can I read it out to you?
Sure.
The High Court has very specifically said it has actually come down heavily on the Ministry of Defence during that period. They have said they did not cooperate. They did not bring in evidence.
But can we, gentlemen,
so
can we stick to Sonia Gandhi? Stick to Sonia Gandhi. I'll come to the Ministry of Defence later. Tell me why you believe, Mr. Mittal, the attack on Sonia is justified by your party.
The party has said this is what has been stated by the High Court of Italy. Now the party said certainly look at the conduct. In 2010 there is an order, and in 2013 that order, 14 that order is cancelled. It is cancelled on what premise? That bribery is paid.
Okay.
And which is a violation of the contract which was entered into by the Ministry of Defence with the company. So because there is a bribery paid, so the order is cancelled. So your own government, the Congress government itself established the payment of bribery. Today they are saying no. Whether this is bribery or some money which has been swindled by the middleman, we don't know.
Okay, that's a fair point.
Give me a break.
I take your point.
When the Defence Ministry cancels a contract of this magnitude on the basis of bribery received,
okay,
don't hoodwink this nation.
I understand. You're citing the Defence Ministry under the UPA as justification for the fact that you're focusing on Sonia Gandhi. Sudhanshu Mittal, because I believe that line to Mr. Mittal is okay. Mr. Mittal, I'm moving on a little. I want to put to you this question about whether our Prime Minister met the Italian Prime Minister in September 2015 at the UN and whether there was some sort of deal or arrangement discussed. The MEA has issued a formal statement which says, and I'm quoting, there was no meeting between the Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Prime Minister Renzi as part of the PM's bilateral meetings at the UNGA in September 2015. Now that very carefully worded statement says there was no meeting as part of the PM's bilateral meetings. It excludes the possibility of a brush-aside meeting. And when I tell you that in fact the two prime ministers were in New York on the same day at the same time because they were both attending Obama's peacekeeping summit, and I believe that peacekeeping summit was actually held on the premises of the UN, it suddenly seems possible that maybe a brush-aside did happen. Because a brush-aside wouldn't be considered a bilateral meeting and it wouldn't be considered official. So that window remains tantalizingly open, not closed.
Karan, this is a standard technique of deflecting an issue. What is the issue? The issue is somebody has taken bribe before 2014. Now, Mr. Modi was not the Prime Minister in 2014, before 2014. So let's not digress from the main issue. What is the main issue? Here is a man called Christian Michel, who's a fugitive today. There's a red corner alert notice against him. Now a fugitive comes up with such weird statements, obviously to protect people he has bribed. Now he is the main conduit for this bribe, who's being chased by the investigating agencies. So to deflect the investigation, to protect the bribe takers, he's coming out with garbage. Now you are comparing this with the document which was recovered, that letter which he wrote, which was recovered and which is a part of a court judgment. Now this is not something which he had given. This is during the investigation, this letter was recovered.
No,
now,
sir,
are they two comparables?
I was citing the letter that Michel wrote our Prime Minister. I'm citing the letter Michel wrote our Prime Minister because in that letter of 8th November 2015 to Mr. Modi, Michel also refers to this meeting in New York.
And he also says that Indian embassy has refused to file a court appeal in the matter. May I tell you, sir, that Indian government was not even a party to the prosecution of these two
Forgive me,
who have
you're
been,
wrong there. No,
convicted for
Mr.
4.5 years.
Mr. Mittal, you're wrong. You're wrong. The Indian government was officially part of the original case in the trial court. The Indian government's lawyers were there and present. That is a complete fact. And the Indian embassy in Rome actually officially communicated to the Italian government that they were not going to appeal against the acquittal, which is how the trial court ended. So that actually is an argument that can be brought up to suggest that your government was lax in not pursuing the matter.
Mr. Thapar, have you checked on this? Because that's not what is my information.
I have checked on it. I assure you. And read today's Economic Times. The same facts are cited in today's Economic Times that I'm quoting to you. It is a fact.
Sir, based on the letter written by this gentleman.
No, sir.
Economic
not based
Times
on the letter written by the gentleman.
Facts out of the, what has been written there. And
no, Mr. Mittal, it is not. I'm not citing the letter written by Michel. I'm citing the Economic Times as well as other facts. We were part of the trial court case, and we did formally, in a letter written by the embassy in Rome, communicate to the Italians that we were not going to appeal against the acquittal. That is why, in fact, the Congress claims that your government was lax as well.
Currently, criminal jurisprudence, I mean, Pinaki is here, criminal jurisprudence is that there is a state which prosecutes and there are people who are prosecuted. Indian government has sent its people there to observe what is happening for the simple reason we have a parallel investigation going on out of a case which was registered in March of 2014.
Forgive me, but the Economic Times also points out that Indian lawyers were cross-questioning witnesses in the case. They weren't simply observers. They were cross-questioning witnesses. The Economic Times points that out. Forgive me on this, Mr. Mittal, I don't want to stop and silence you. I don't want to be rude. But the facts, I believe, are on my side, not yours. Let's not make this a personal issue, sir.
Let me concede, even if the facts are on your side.
Thank you.
What is the subject matter? The subject matter is there is bribe which was taken. The bribe takers are yet to be arrested. The bribe givers have been convicted.
The bribe takers are yet to be identified.
Which convicted these bribe givers has maintained that the Ministry of Defence in 2014 did not cooperate. You have just heard Mr. Singhvi saying our defence minister cancelled the contract. He cancelled the contract only when on February 12th, 2013, the prime accused, Mr. Orsi, was arrested. And there was no way this contract would have then continued. So it was cancelled subsequent to that.
Mr. Mittal,
they did not take cognizance of the CAG report, which came earlier, which said there was hierarchy.
Mr. Mittal, I take the point you're making, and I want very much to broaden the discussion. I'm going to take a quick break. And when I come back, I'm actually going to move away from what that judgment in Italy says about Sonia Gandhi or Manmohan Singh or Ahmed Patel, and I want to come instead to what it says about the UPA government as a whole. Because you're right, Mr. Mittal, in pointing out that when it talks about the UPA government as a whole, it is actually clearly stating, not just suggesting, but stating that UPA was unhelpful, and maybe it's implying that that unhelpfulness was a cover-up. That will be the issue we tackle after the break. See you in a moment's time. Mittal, at the end of the day, the BJP in the comments it's making, the government in the comments it's making, is relying on a judgment that is so poorly translated, it's not just difficult to read, in places it's actually difficult to understand. Secondly, these are not official authentic translations. These are translations available on a website, the credibility and veracity of which we don't know, and therefore we really have no idea how much faith we can place in these translations. Yet your party is using these translations to launch a major attack on Congress and Sonia Gandhi. Again, I ask the question, is that fair?
Karanji, before I answer this question, one analogy which we are all missing out is, you pointed out two things. What the court has said about UPA not cooperating with the court to bring out facts. The second is what Mr. Pinaki Mishra, you just brought out about 11 months delay in giving the documents. The third, and more importantly, the effort by Mr. Kapil Sibal to protect people from not getting investigated. You see, when Mr. Narayanan or when Mr. Vanchu were to be interrogated and questioned by the CBI, he made it a point to say, no, they cannot be investigated. It is only after our government came into power that the CBI was permitted to investigate.
A fair point.
So when you look at the conduct of the Congress and the UPA in its entirety,
it's a fair point.
There is a continuity.
But I'm running out of time, Mr. Mittal. It's a fair point. Please come to my question about the credibility and reliability of this translation.
Now, as far as the translation and all is concerned, the entire nation is debating on what has been brought to the notice in the public domain. Now, the Congress is also relying on the same, we are also relying on the same, everybody is relying on the same. So there are two sides.
Everyone could be wrong.
What in the translation is stated by the court. The other is what will happen by the CBI. We are all waiting as to how the CBI will go about in its prosecution, because I understand.
Sir, forgive me, I don't mean to interrupt you, and I apologize for interrupting you, but the question is the translation an accurate reflection of what the Italian court has said? The Italian court said it in Italian. The translation in very badly done English may be a complete misrepresentation. Yet we are building up an enormous case, and in your case, you're building up an attack entirely on the basis of something that could be unreliable.
Mr. Thapa, probably a word or two or sentence or two sentences may not be reliable. But when you look at the entire case in its entirety, that yes, there was a bribe given, yes, there is a bribe taker, that there is an effort by the UPA government to protect the bribe taker by the three instances which I just mentioned. Yes, there is laxity on part of the Indian government vis-a-vis cooperating with the courts. When you look at this entire thing in the entirety, I don't think there is any doubt in the minds that people who were in a position to influence decision making took bribes, and that there is an effort to protect these people.
Okay, that's a fair point.
I mean, it's as simple as that.
Okay, it is certainly for you, Mittal Saab. I'm not sure if it's as simple as that for others, but let's not contest that. To the conclusion, Sonia Gandhi has to play her name.
I have certainly not drawn any such conclusion.
Mr. Rudy did. Mr. Rudy did, and I was asking you whether Mr. Rudy crossed a red line in doing that. He is, after all, more than just an ordinary MP. He's a minister.
Karanji, you must also quote the statement of Mrs. Gandhi blaming the BJP for this controversy.
This has been
I mean, if Rudy is right, then what about Mrs. Gandhi and the Congress saying it's a BJP conspiracy?
We've run right out of time. We had a very nice, structured, amicable discussion, but I think we've run out of time. I want to thank all my guests for joining me, and I'm particularly grateful that Mr. Mittal was with us today, because I know he was otherwise busy, but he made time for us. Thank you, Mr. Mittal. Goodbye. Good night.